Executive Director of the Maryland, Delaware, DC Press Association. And today we're talking with Karl Baker of the News Journal in Wilmington, Delaware, about Delaware campaign finance reports. This is part of our Need to Know webinar series, which is focusing on election coverage. Our next session in this series is tomorrow, October 1st, where we'll be talking with Fennet Nirapil, excuse me, of the Washington Post about local DC campaign finance reports. And then next week on October 7th, we'll be talking to Mylea Cromer of the Goucher poll about surveys and polls. So I hope you'll be able to join us for this free series. But now let's dive into Delaware. So Karl, tell us a little bit about you and what you've been doing in campaign finance reports and political reporting for the News Journal.
Sure. So, Rebecca, I cover a lot of business. I cover government. I cover the space where those two intermesh, and kind of for many outside of Delaware, Delaware is known as this place, the secretive business haven, and sometimes that secretive nature spills into politics. So I am frequently trying to figure out what donor or what entity that a politician has spent money on, has given money to for an expenditure, who is actually behind those limited liability companies or other entities. So I was just thinking I would walk people through a few things. I pulled up Joe Biden's super PACs, a recent filing from them that I hadn't actually looked through until about an hour ago. And I thought we'd kind of work through some of that and then just work through a couple other past cases that I'd been able to kind of discern who was behind certain things. I think the one key point here that I would just emphasize to everybody right off the start is when trying to figure out more information, the information beyond just what is listed on filings, you have to be persistent, first of all, but then you have to call people. Don't just rely on documents that are online because they won't give you everything. And request documents from the state. But anyway, we'll go through that and I'll show everybody my process. So,
okay.
I think I'll share my screen now, if I can remember that. How to do that. Share screen. Screen 2.
There you go.
All right, people can see it. So I guess I have this document open. I'll start here.
So Karl, where do you go to get these documents? I see it's .query FEC.
Yeah,
what is that?
This is the Federal Elections Commission. This is the agency that records the finances of campaigns that are involved or that are seeking federal office. So whether they are third-party advertisers, outside groups spending money on candidates, or the candidates themselves, if it's about a federal office, they have to file with the Federal Elections Commission. And that website is, where is it here? It's fec.gov, excuse me.
I'm so glad you're a real person and have all those tabs open. That makes me feel so much better about my life.
I had to delete a bunch of them before, and I sometimes have way. But let's see. So this is the FEC's website. The one tip I would emphasize about this is they will compile data. They'll list expenditures and spending, the numbers they pulled from reports and compile it together. And often that's useful, but really look at the actual reports. Look at the actual reports that the campaigns or the outside groups filed themselves. That's where, that's the original source data, the original document. So that's what I would emphasize with that. You can also you can register to have reports emailed to you when a new one is filed by a particular committee. that's where I saw this particular report from. It's called Unite the Country. It's a super PAC supporting Joe Biden. I think this was filed a few weeks ago, the 14th of September. And I just, as I said, I just opened it about an hour ago and started scrolling through. And you know what I often look for are entities that are not immediately identifiable. And one of the first ones I found I saw on this report was this company called RAMC LLC. It has an address in Columbia, South Carolina. It had the Unite the Country, the super PAC had paid it $18,000 for communications consulting. Okay, that doesn't tell us a whole lot, but first thing I do is just Google RAMC LLC to see if it is an obvious. Here, even before we put in communications, let's just do RAMC LLC, and it doesn't look like there is an immediate website for it. There are these business aggregating sites that pull data from states, from Secretary of State's offices in different states. Looks like there was an entity, RAMC LLC, registered with Delaware. Looks like there was one registered with North Carolina. There is a Facebook page for what looks like a remodeling company called RAMC. So we don't know if any of these are the company that we're trying to find out, but since it's the top and we got to start somewhere, and because I'm a Delaware reporter, first thing, what I would do here is, so this was pulled from the Secretary of State's website. So at some point, there was a company called RAMC LLC that was registered with the Delaware Secretary of State. So Delaware, there's a search, entity search. So this page, now this page is intentionally awkward. It puts up obstacles in an attempt to keep bots from crawling it, but it also just makes things far more difficult for us. We search, and there's not immediately an RAMC LLC. Doesn't appear to be. There is an RAMC 2007 AV3 LLC. But remember that website that crawled pages had found a RAMC LLC apparently registered in Delaware. So if a company has been dissolved, it sometimes doesn't show up on this search. And this is the one thing I want to emphasize to everyone here. Email the Secretary of State's office and ask them for all documents filed by this company. And if there never was any, they'll tell you. But if there are, it's a public record. And so, for example, let's click on this. This could be a derivative of RAMC. It could be a different company. We don't know. You click on it, and I imagine it's probably going to, yeah, it just starts us over because the Secretary of State's website is intentionally difficult. It puts up unnecessarily obstacles. So you have to type it in again for some reason, and just about every time you have to do this. So, but let's get there. Search. So let's try it again. No. All right. So now here's the information they'll give you online. And this is kind of what I wanted to show you here, the registered agent information. So if you're searching for a company, trying to find out more about it, and the listed address is 1209 Orange Street, or another company another address that belongs to a company whose only job is to registered companies, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to find any more information about RAMC, whether this RAMC is the one that's on Joe Biden's super PAC or not. So again, I would stress, email the Secretary of State's, the Secretary of State, Delaware Secretary of State, and ask them, give me all documents, all filings by REMC LLC, and I would also probably ask for this one just in case it is the derivative of that same company. Now, if it's an LLC, there will probably only be one filing. That's the statement of formation. And it will likely show Corporation Trust Center as a registered agent. But there's an important thing to keep in mind here. Sometimes, and this could be called the Michael Cohen rule. Sometimes at the bottom of the formation document, even though the actual owner of the entity doesn't have to sign it, sometimes they will, often they will. And as far as I understand, that's how the Wall Street Journal found out that Michael Cohen was behind the entity that paid Stormy Daniels. He formed a LLC in Delaware. He had a registered agent, as far as I understand, listed on this page as the agent. But then this is as I understand it, when the Wall Street Journal requested the formation documents from the Delaware Secretary of State, Michael Cohen, even though he didn't have to, he signed the bottom. And then that way, the reporters were able to link that entity to Trump. That's interesting. So again, I stress, put the Delaware Secretary of State officials to work and ask them for these documents. You know, even if you're not sure if an entity like this one, we don't know if this REMC is the same REMC that received $18,000 from this Biden super PAC. It could be, and let's find it. Let's check. So that's one avenue. Look at, and you can do the same thing for other states. I think most states, I think maybe all states, the company filings that they hold are public documents.
So, Carl, we had a question crop up. Is this known as a foundation document, or what's the name of the document that we're looking at?
Sure, the formation document. So if it's
formation.
Formation. So it's when they formed. So LLCs really only have to file that. They don't have to file annual reports. But like I said, that sometimes it won't get you anywhere. Sometimes it will, as I understand, at least as it did with the Wall Street Journal reporters and Michael Cohen's LLC that he had created for Stormy Daniels.
Okay, so then this is available on the federal level for anyone who's spending, this is really kind of focusing on people who are running on the federal level, which
this is essentially what I'm doing here is, you will often, when you're looking at campaign finance reports, either if you see an expenditure by a candidate or a donation by an entity to a candidate, that entity will be listed just as an LLC, and there will be really no information about who is really behind that, who, as they say, is the beneficial owner of that LLC. So this is the first step I would take to try to find that.
Okay.
So email the Secretary of State, probably hear back in a day. They actually had a very helpful lead person there that would turn these documents around for me in an hour usually. Now he left about 4 months ago, and now it takes a little bit longer, but it's still a public document. Ask for it.
And so when you're looking at campaign finance reports and say in like specifically Delaware for Delaware races, I guess you would still see all of those perhaps beneficiaries and expenditures. And this is a great way to just get behind the scenes of what, who those people really are. And so they're looking for formation, FORMATION, formation document. Okay.
And now if it's an Inc., so if it were RAMC Inc., not only would there be the formation document, but then they would have to file an annual report every year.
Okay.
And that would give you their members of their board, and other information that could be useful. Now, most of these entities will file as an LLC, so they don't have to do that. But Okay, so I did this. I emailed the Secretary of State's office on the off chance that this entity might be related to the RAMC we're seeking. I also would email them asking for any documents, any filings from RAMC LLC, simply because this website, this business aggregation website, said there was a RAMC in Delaware. It also says there's one in North Carolina, so I would do the same thing for North Carolina. Next, I would, so the other thing, that's the first thing I did about an hour ago when I looked it up. And then I looked back at the filing and saw, oh, they're a communications consultant. So then I just Googled RAMC LLC communications. And there's this same document that comes up with that same, this is the South Carolina address that's listed, but then there is another RAMC, there's an RAMC Enterprises LLC, and this is in New York. I'm sorry, this is in Washington, D.C. So that is that's an indication this could be who we are seeking. So now we have another address to look into, a phone number. I would call that phone number, but then also I would, with all this information we've got, I would go to, I would now go to LexisNexis. So also worthwhile, I had gone to, this is the Richland County, South Carolina parcel search page. And I put in so that the RAMC on Biden's super PAC listed an address, 3110 Kershaw. I would search for that. Unfortunately, apparently I didn't know this. The Richland County, South Carolina parcel search page does not list the owner of the record if you search by address. Now, I haven't done this yet. I would also go to their Recorder of Deeds office if I hadn't found other ways, and try to find the actual deed to this land to find out whose name is on that. Because again, this address is listed as the address for RAMC on the Biden Super PAC's disclosure. But I would also go to LexisNexis. You guys have access to LexisNexis?
I think some people do and some people don't.
Okay, if you can get access to LexisNexis, that would be incredibly helpful. So I'd gone to the Comprehensive Business Report search on LexisNexis, and rather than searching for the name, I searched the name RAMC. I didn't get a ton of results, but I searched the address, that South Carolina address, and let me go back. And all of this, so this is the search results for that South Carolina address. And that address, by the way, is just a house, I believe, in South Carolina. And now all of a sudden we get a bunch of new entities. Now, I just found this about an hour before this, so I haven't looked through all this. That house might just be a registered agent's address in South Carolina. Nevertheless, which with all these entities, that kind of leads me to believe that. But nevertheless, there's more avenues to search down. You can call these entities, find out what that address is. They might just say, "Oh, it's just my registered agent." If that's the case, you can move on and try other avenues. So finally, I also remember there was this Washington, D.C. RAMC Enterprises. Again, for me, business addresses are often more important than the actual name of the entity. So RAMC Enterprises LLC might or might not be this one we're seeking as a Washington, D.C. address. First of all, Google the address. Here it is. It looks like it's a maybe an apartment building with a Liberty Cleaners and Shoe Repair on the bottom floor. So it's not immediately obvious what that is again. But let's see. I think what I'm trying to convey to you guys here is just be persistent. Keep plugging away at all avenues. Let's put into, where is it? Into LexisNexis again. Where did it go? So let's do a new address. Let's do a new search. Open up a new page. So I'm going to go to SmartLinks Comprehensive Business Report. And I'm not going to search by the entity name this time. I'm going to search by the address. Washington. District of Columbia, and search. Now, I haven't done this search yet, so we'll see what we get. RMC Enterprises LLC. So we get a number of entities here. And really kind of what I'm going for is looking for phone numbers I can call. So let's click on Get Business Report. So here's a phone number. Here's a phone number. Now, these ones might not be active any longer, but we should try them. Try to find out. I'm looking for phone numbers and names of individuals. Here's a website that might or might not be linked to it. See what that is, blowmdry.com. Sparkly news site, great. So again, there's probably a phone number on this. I'd call them, ask them, are they linked to RAMC in some way? They might not be, probably not, but you never know. So again, the point is look for names of people. Here are the officers, Kim Allen and Kim Lee. You could then, the registered agent, William Caulfield. Again, we don't know if this entity is linked to the entity on the campaign finance report, but it might be. And the point is, you can only get so far with your internet searches. You have to start calling people and asking. So that's where I would go. At this point, I've got all this new information, new entities. I would just start calling people to try to find out, again, if they are linked to this RAMC LLC. That gave that received $18,000 from Biden's super PAC. I think that's a great way to kind of dig in on the businesses, and I can see so many applications to use that, right. Whether you're starting, on the federal level or starting on the state level. Yeah, and this can be used. I mean, this is for state filings, federal filing. It doesn't matter what state it is. Often, in any state, you will see a recipient or a donor that is only listed as an LLC. And really, the key is I've run into other reporters who just say, "Oh, it's a shell company. We can't find out who it is." You can sometimes, and you should try. And the key to that is looking at addresses, looking through Nexus, and sending requests to the State Department of States, or whichever agency in a state oversees its business filings. Get those filings, and you will, not every time, but often, find a name or find a phone number or find an address that will link you to who is really behind it. So one of our participants just asked, sort of looking at Delaware entities, like if you wanted to see where the employees of a specific entity, like the University of Delaware, where they're giving their money in this election cycle, how would you find that out? So if we're talking about So let's go to, this is the state of Delaware. This is for Delaware. This is for candidates seeking office in the state of Delaware, not federal offices. So
Okay, but I want to see if any unit. So I'm Dawn Fallick. Hi.
yeah,
I'm, I'm a professor at the University of Delaware. I teach journalism.
hey,
And so I like to have my students do stories about who do their professors give to and how much, like who are the big donors, because then I also want to see if those donors then get big federal contracts as well.
mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking on the federal side. I'm also curious to see if there are any University of Delaware employees who gave to Trump because it's such a Biden thing,
Right.
Particularly after we were dissed last night on, national media.
Right.
So can you look at the federal data, or do you look through the state data?
Yeah, absolutely. So the federal data is on the FEC's page, so fec.gov.
So that's where I would go.
Yep. Now, keep in mind if it's if it's a donation under either $100 or $200, I should know this. It's not going to be itemized. If it's a small donation, it's not going to be itemized. If it's a larger one, it will be. And you can search through all receipts, search through individual contributions. So contributor details. Can you guys still see my screen, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And you just search by name, search by zip code.
Can you search by employer?
Looks like you can. Yes.
So if you wanted to look at something specific, do you have to put it in quotes?
No.
Oh, Karl, you're looking in occupation. I think you're just
you're right. You're
slightly
right.
in the wrong field.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we have a number. Now, many of them are itemized.
Okay.
Looks like. And this was just search of University of Delaware as the employer. And
So when I tried to do this, the reason I'm asking is, so when I tried to do this, it gave me so many fields that it was really confusing. How did you get it to only show you like these specific fields?
It
gave me like the kind of contribution and like committee things. Like it was overwhelming. Did
you go to the individual contributions search?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I would. I'm not exactly certain what you had searched. I mean, but the one thing I would say is, even if you get a lot of data,
yeah,
I would recommend exporting that data, putting it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then it's so much easier to manipulate and see for yourself.
Is there a way to look for Trump and see if anybody did?
To do that, I would put it into an Excel spreadsheet. But there is you can search by the recipient as well, so you can research.
Oh, I see.
So let's see. I think let's just put Trump in.
Because I think it also shows, because like here, like on the side, it shows the occupation field. So like that way we could see if President Asanas gave any money. I'm always interested to see if the board of directors did, like the people in power. Because sometimes they give to both.
Right. Well, and I would also imagine that your board of directors may not note the University of Delaware as an employer, and so there you'd have to like search under the 20 names on your board. And I also want to clarify that if you just put in recipient name of Trump or Biden or whoever you're looking for, it's not going to show the PAC. Like the Blue Momentum PAC is obviously, they're pushing money to Democratic candidates, but it's not going to be called out for Biden specifically.
I have one other question, if you don't mind my asking, and then I'll shut up. So I thought that Act Blue was a super PAC because they accept money from individuals, but on their website it says it's just a PAC. can you explain just for a minute, like the difference between the two and why Act Blue? Because I was looking to see if there was a lot of donations, like who gave during like that weekend when Ruth Ginsburg died.
Right.
I don't know if it's just not up yet, but a lot of it was to Act Blue, but I
Right.
was kind of confused.
So Act Blue, I mean, you may know this, is kind of the default that many people donate to the default Democratic Party group that people donate to, which then distributes it to candidates, or they donate it through them, as I understand it. To answer your question about the difference, I would probably not be precise in my answer. So why don't we just do, see what difference between a super PAC.
Because I looked it up and it said that like a super PAC allows them to raise funds from individuals.
Right.
But which seems like Act Blue would be a super PAC then, but then on their website it says that it's just a PAC. So that's why I was.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know if it matters. I just noticed it a lot, and I wanted to be able to explain it to students. Sure. But I think I don't know.
Blue, a super PAC.
I found
Why is Act Blue considered a PAC?
Right, but then Politico did a story back in like 2010 saying that they were becoming a super PAC. Like, it's just very confusing. So right there, you just passed the story.
Oh, okay. I see it. There it is. So I'm sure you know. I mean, or you may know, the super PAC designation. It was created after the Citizens United ruling, which allowed for unlimited spending of super PAC for super PACs. Again.
This used to be so much easier with
what's that?
It used to be so much easier to do this through Open Secrets, and then Open Secrets kind of locked down, and now they only give like a couple hundred donations, and you can't see everything. And so, if you want more than that, it's $1,500. So
right.
So I appreciate you doing this.
Sure, yeah, but let's do. You were talking about Dennis Hasanis. How do I spell his last name again? You remember?
Oh God, help me! Hold on.
The trick question of the whole event.
Let's see.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's hold on. ASS.
There it is. ANIS.
ANIS. Hold on.
Let's find it.
It would be under his wife's name. His wife is the one who's like the power.
And she also
says off the record.
Her last name also is
yeah.
Okay.
So it's yeah.
Let's see. There's not a let's just do Hasanis and see how many results there are at first. Oops. Yeah, there we go.
Well, and of course you still have
nothing is working on my end.
Well, and you still have it just going for Donald J. Trump for president. So maybe.
Well, I
know that's not clicked. Okay.
I clicked that. Yeah, here I could just exit out of that. Let's exit out of that. Okay. How many results are there here?
Oh, just 124 million.
Yeah, right. So let's just do. You know if they live in Newark?
Yeah, they should. They should live in that big house, the presidential house.
Okay.
Do you still have the Employers University of Delaware?
Yeah, it's ASSANIS.
Yeah, no data available. So
yeah,
I'm looking in. Now I'm only looking over the last 2 years.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and his wife is ELENI.
tell.
Yeah, they may not be giving anything. I know that Patrick Harker gave money to both sides. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you looking it up. I don't mean to take over your talk. Go ahead.
That's all right. I mean, I mean, I think these are most useful when we're just kind of working together to find some targeted goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything immediately coming up. Now, with that said, like going back to what I was saying, what I was saying earlier, I have my quasi standing desk and I started standing. What I was saying earlier, they could be donating through an LLC or through some other entity. Now it's hard to reverse engineer it, but let's try that. Let's go back to LexisNexis. And do you have LexisNexis?
I think some will and some won't. Dawn, you probably don't have.
Yeah, we have it through the library. Most of the academics will have it through the library. And also, if somebody doesn't have LexisNexis, all libraries have access to it. So they can go to any of their local libraries and do it there.
Right. That's a good call.
That's like the best pro tip of the session.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big fan, and librarians really want to like find this stuff out. Like they get very excited when you're like, I want to find out, like, you know, how many Wharton employees gave to Trump last time.
So when you're trying to find an entity that's connected to a name that you know, in LexisNexis, you can't actually, there's their comprehensive business search. You can't just put a name into those fields. You have to have something more than that. So you can't really use that if we only have a name. But you can search for what are called UCC filings, and they're called Uniform Commercial Code filings. It's a document that a company has to file when they have securitized debt, when they get a loan, and you can search by name on that. So this might be a long shot, but let's just try it. Let's just try see if there's any entity that comes up associated with. And how do we spell that again? ASSANIS, is that?
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. I also wonder if it would be under the 990s because, you know, Delaware, even though the university says it's, you know, a nonprofit or, you know, it's a, they file under the 990.
Right.
They have to list that kind of stuff. But I think like we're way behind on that. So I don't know if Asanis has to list any of his holdings or anything like that.
So there would be a kind of he would have to disclose the entities that he is connected to. That's what I hear?
Yeah, I don't know. That I'm just wondering if that would be another place to find out.
Yeah, I mean you should definitely look into that. I don't know that answer. Now it looks like there's no UCC filings that came up through with the name Asanis. Now I will just to show you guys the usefulness of looking up UCC filings. Let's put in the Wilmington mayor. Let's see what he has filed. So this is Mike Przicki. So we're using this as a tool to find companies attached to a person. And you can search. And this is veering a little ways off of from campaign finance, but again, this is all about finding out who's behind entities who are, in this case, this is not about a donation, but it illustrates how you can find a person behind or an entity connected to a person. So this is the mayor of Wilmington. There's a Michael A. Przicki. That's not him, but there's this Michael Przicki, Newark, Delaware. Okay, here's an entity he owns. Here's another entity he owns. And this was filed back in 1993, so this was a long time ago. But again, now we know that Bethel Villa Associates is owned or was owned by Mike Przicki, Wilmington's mayor, who has been known as a real estate developer before he became mayor. So I'd like to show you guys, if we have time, a couple more examples of things I have done. If we have time, do we, Rebecca?
We are set to end at about 11:15, so maybe just super short, a couple little things would be helpful. I think we can go to 11:20 if it works.
Okay, very quickly. So a couple years ago, there was the 2018 election. There were a number of new entities that put money into the race as third-party advertisers or as direct donors to candidates. One was called Building Stronger Communities. I had never heard of it. No one seemed to have heard of it at that time. So I had looked it up as I'd showed you in the Delaware Secretary of State's business search, no results. So I went again to LexisNexis, and let's see if I can find the page I had opened. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. We already saw that. So first thing, just look up Building Stronger Communities. See what you get here. Oh, whoops. Still had Mike Przicki's name in here. Let's go back. There's a Honolulu Building Stronger Communities, might or might not be it. And then a couple other things in Jefferson County, Missouri. Nothing immediately looks like it would probably be that entity. You know, this is a very generic sounding name, but listed on its campaign finance report was also an address. If I still have that pulled up. Let's just recreate that. So going to view filed reports, continue, any name, Building Stronger Communities. All right, search. So here's the entity. Let's click on it. I just pulled up a PDF on my other screen. Let me drag it over. So the point of this demonstration is to show, first you get a name of the treasurer, and I guess on this particular, a previous report also showed the address. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Oh, okay, so this report I had pulled up, maybe that's the same one I had here. Yes. So if you scroll down and you see the receipts that Building Stronger Communities received, it was a $240,000 payment from another entity called Growing Economic Opportunities. Again, that doesn't tell you much, but it gives you an address. And this is the point of this demonstration. Addresses are important. Addresses will link you often to the entities that are behind whatever activity you're looking at. So let's go back to LexisNexis. I just copied that address and I had pasted it earlier. So this is the address from that entity we just saw that gave $240,000 to Building Stronger Communities. Search by the address in the comprehensive business search. And we've got this company called Duman Chemicals, Inc. You've got a New Jersey Apartment Association. And then you also have Labor's Eastern Region Political Education Fund. Now this we figured out was the entity that was behind it. It was a New Jersey union that had, in the last week, poured $240,000 into just a few races in Delaware. And Delaware is a small place. And so that is a large amount. Long story short, search by address. You'll get a few different entities. We were able to eliminate these first two, and we found out through calls, through other means, that was the entity. These are tips. things you find on LexisNexis or the Delaware Secretary of State's website or directly on campaign finance reports are just tips. Use those to make calls and call real people. That's where you will confirm often, where you will confirm whether or not the real beneficial owner, who the real beneficial owner is behind a donation or a receipt or an expenditure.
This has been really helpful. Before we kind of wrap up, because it is 11:19, does anyone have any questions for Karl or any other last thoughts?
I just have a question. If I have a follow-up question or I want to double check some results that I find, can I contact you and completely abuse my Delaware privilege?
Yeah. It's my email address is simple. It's kbaker, so
Okay.
K-A-K-E-R at DelawareOnline.com.
Tell Phil Friedman I said hello.
Okay, I will.
And I will, we have recorded this webinar, so I will send the link out to you all so you can catch up with it. And I would think, Dawn, you weren't on the line when I pitched that our next big session in the series of Need to Know for election coverage is for surveys and polls. October 7th, we'll have Malia Cromer of the Goucher poll speaking to us. So Karl, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I feel like there's so much to navigate here and so much untapped information. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. This was really helpful and insightful. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye.